F chords. F those F chords. Okay, let's talk about how to get into that. Oh, F chords give so many people so many problems. So, the F chord is a barred version of your E chord. If you make an E chord, open E, first finger at the first fret of the G string, second finger at the second fret of the A string, third finger at the third fret of the D, second fret of the D, sorry. And then just imagine, oh yeah, I'm going to put my first, second finger here, and then my third and fourth finger, so my first finger is free. And then you can work on moving one fret up and then putting your first finger behind all those other fingers at the first fret, thus making a barred F chord. And a little fun fact, if you look in the classical guitar literature, you will see when they indicate what fret to bar something at, there will be a C. And that C stands for ceja, C-E-J-A, which means eyebrow in Spanish, which is fun because when you bar for a little while, the strings will make an impression in your finger and it looks like an eyebrow. So, and the reason why I like to point that out is because when you're making a bar, quite often, not always, but quite often, you'll actually use kind of the side of your finger rather than the flat part of the fleshy part of your finger. And it actually helps because the fleshy part of your finger is a little bit softer and the strings will sink a little farther into them and you'll have a harder time getting that pressure. The other thing you'll note is that if you look, if I just get this out of the way for a second and I go like this, oh, I'm sitting with the guitar more classically. And I really like, especially for bar chords lower on the neck, I prefer actually to use the classical position because you can use the weight of your arm, a little bit the weight of your elbow, to push the strings down, and less pressure with the thumb. You really want to use just as much pressure as you must, and my thumb is essentially parallel with my middle finger there on the back of the neck, about midway down, right? Because if I tried to do this, if I hold the guitar like, what they call a folk style or casual style, I end up leaning over, kind of hunching over like this to do that. So oftentimes if I'm playing bar chords, I'll try to position my guitar either with the strap or with the way I sit to get it this way. So, and it is challenging at first. One thing that you can do as you're working on these chords, these bar chords, is it's sort of like when they say in weight training, it's like work on the form and then add weight. So as long as the action on your guitar is not prohibitively high, the strings are not too far from the fretboard, you can actually move up the neck, and that brings the frets a little bit closer together, so the reach is easier to make, and there's a little bit less tension on the strings, so it's easier to press down. So that's another little tip on working on your F style bar chord, and then you just work your way down. So, classical posture with the neck tilted up is helpful, the thumb down, so you can use the weight of your arm, using the side of the index finger, and maybe, starting a little bit lighter. If you're still having trouble with that, you might try applying a capo below to give you a little bit of help with pushing the strings down, or the other thing you can do is tune down your guitar maybe a half step. All of these things can help, and work on your form and getting clear, no buzzing, no muting. And then, as you get your form together, then try, bringing taking the capo off or bringing the guitar back up to pitch. Okay, other things and other ways to play the F chord. Well, if I'm going to sit with the guitar more casual style with the neck more parallel to the ground, then I might do the thumb over. And so instead of barring full way across, I've got my first finger. You can see my first finger comes all the way down here, and it's really situated across these 3 strings. It's really only going to be sounding the top 2 strings. And then I'm using my thumb to get the low E string to sound. And what you'll see is, oh, I'm really palming the neck. This is the one place, the one technique that I'll use that I'll actually do what I call palming the neck, which is I've really got the neck squeezed in there by my palm. This is like more of a kind of a mandolin or banjo technique, but I think of it as more like mandolin technique because the neck is more parallel to the ground, and the neck is actually kind of cradled between your index and thumb. So, and just right there, so here I've got that thumb over, fretting just barely over the first fret. If you haven't trouble with actually being able to fret with the thumb, which you might depending on your hands or the guitar, then the other thing that you can do is just play a 4-string F chord. And so I'll just use the thumb there to lightly mute in case I should hit the E string. And I'll actually, and you could still bar both these strings with your index finger, or you could do the same kind of trick on this end, is that I'm actually pushing the B string down, but I'm going to mute the high E string, if that bar is tough for you. And so you could work on that. And with the same thing, even if you're fretting those, or if you're using the thumb over, it may be helpful to try it a few frets up the neck, or use the capo behind it to give you a little bit of help. Not too far with this one, probably up the neck. But that's how I would work on that. And any one of those, whatever works for you, is acceptable while you work on the other versions of it. I think you're really going to want to have the full barred version of the F eventually. But to get playing this song or that, you could start with this F chord. It's very easy to transition to your C chord and all that, so it's a good and useful one. And sometimes it's just, especially like I said, for sitting more mandolin style, it's very useful. Okay, hopefully that's helpful for everybody in working on their F chords, and enjoy that. All right, keep at it.